Good morning from Colombia. The title of today's reflection is Church Never Ends. Today we are looking at the book of Mark, chapter 1, verse 29 to 31. As soon as they left the synagogue, they went with James and John to the home of Simon and Andrew. Simon's mother-in-law was in bed with a fever, and they told Jesus about her. So he went to her, took her hand, and helped her up. The fever left her, and she began to wait on them. Jesus has just been preaching in the synagogue. The people were amazed at the authority he had, and we've just read about the ordeal with the evil spirit. But here, 3 things that I learned from this scripture. The first one is that real church continues always. Jesus had just finished his teaching in the synagogue. I don't know about you, but sometimes when I get home from church, especially if it's been a morning where we've been preaching or working with the children's work, it can be a time to, relax, put your feet up. But real church always continues. Church is the people and not the place. When we leave church, our job continues as followers of Jesus Christ. And here we see Jesus, after he's been preaching in the synagogue, straight away they've gone off to somebody's house, maybe to have a lunch, maybe to relax, which is just as much important as church as anything else. And Simon's mother-in-law was in bed. Here, this is interesting because it makes reference to Simon's mother-in-law. Other than in the other Gospels, where we read of this same miracle, we don't hear anything else mentioned about Simon Peter ever being married. I use the name Simon Peter because to many of you, you may know him as Simon Peter. Simon was his name when Jesus met him, but Jesus later changed his name to Peter. So this is the only time that we read about Simon Peter being married. Many believe that actually he had been married before he'd met Jesus. This would still mean he would have a mother-in-law, and the culture of that day's society would be that families would live together. But most, as I say, believe that she died before Peter even met Jesus. But when we see the way that Jesus brings healing in this position, we see the tenderness, the side of Jesus. He says that he took her hand and he helped her up, and the fever left her. Back in the synagogue, when Jesus had freed the man from the evil spirit, it had come out with a shriek, and the man had been shaken violently. But here we see the same authority that Jesus has over sickness, but we also see the way that he is tender, loving, and caring. This is an excellent example of how we are to be, not just in church, but all the time, walking in both the authority that Jesus has given us and the love that he has given to us too. Jesus showed an example of how to live. When we study the scriptures and we study how he lived, we see there were many sides to his character. And here we see a beautiful example of his tenderness with authority. This is how we are to be as people of the Church of Jesus Christ, walking around with the authority that Jesus has, but making sure that everything we do and everything we say is seasoned with love and tenderness. So my question is to you today, when you walk out of church on a Sunday morning, is that the end of the God bit of your week? Is that the end of church? Or actually, is that just the beginning? Is that just the start? Where we've remembered again who we are. We've remembered how we're meant to live. We've been challenged. We've worshipped God. But now it's going to go out and we're going to carry out the way that we follow Jesus for the rest of the days of the week. You see, real church always continues. It never stops. The church is a representation of Jesus, and it's a representation of Jesus through his people, not through a building. So remember this when you go to work, when you're with your family, wherever else you may be. You're a Christian. You're representing Jesus to everyone and everyone around you. Follow the example of Jesus. Be an excellent example of both authority and love. God bless you all.